just as I was about to start my master's program. I found myself in a hospital sick for weeks. Honestly, when I look back and think about it, the distraction of class kept me positive. It kept me thinking. It kept me together. It kept me going. And it allowed me to focus on something other than what could have been a downer in my life at that time.
Welcome to the UMGC podcast, Unstoppable Stories, with your host, Nathan James.
All right, and today I am joined by Lakia Elam, a two-time UMGC graduate with her bachelor's and master's degree. She is an entrepreneur, the CEO of Magnificent Differences Consulting, and she's a principal consultant. Lakia, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Nathan. So happy to be here.
Yeah, no, thank you. We're looking forward to digging into your story. Look, you've accomplished a lot to this point, and the impact that you're making is big. And I really want to approach this from your upbringing, like really take us back to the beginning, if you can. Tell us about your life before, UMGC, before education, your upbringing. Please go for it.
Great, thank you. So, I always like to start with, I'm an inner city girl. I'm a DC native, born and raised. And, I came up in what was considered one of the rougher neighborhoods in DC in the late 70s and early 80s. And honestly, education and learning outside of the school walls has always been a thing for me. I've always been a curious person. And I was born into a young family. And so I had to get smart fast and I had to keep up with the teenagers in the family, which also impacted who I was and how I thought about things. I often tell people that nature versus nurture thing really kicked in for me. So while I liked education and while I loved to learn, it really wasn't what was happening around me. So I had to, from an early age, seek out opportunities to learn and seek out opportunities to engage in learning activities. And they always did not come within the school walls, if you will. Right? Like if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
But
it
we
does.
just kind of, that was my early life. And we fast forward again, nature versus nurture. I became a teen mom. And, from the time that I was like, I have to have this baby, I'm having this baby, I'm about to be a mother, I made this conscious decision that she would live a different life than I did, that education will always be first, that nature would not supersede and take over for her. And I really pushed that early on. And so through her, I continued my education journey. Didn't even realize I was doing it at the time.
No, that's good. No, that's really good. Talk a little bit more about your daughter's impacts, right, on your life's trajectory, if you can.
My daughter's impact on my life's trajectory is everything. Like, and I hope she don't hear this because she already has a big head and it might get a little bigger. But honestly, having her, a lot of people in my family, right? Like I had one of these, like her. They were all involved, and everyone had an opinion, and they were like, having this child is going to change your life. Having this child is going to stop your life. But they only saw a portion of my life. They didn't realize what I was into. But having that baby um, gave me hope. It gave me a reason to want to do better and no more to be on, I no longer wanted to be into the things that I was into that was taking me nowhere real fast, real fast. And even though I knew it, it was hard to get out. But now having this life that I was responsible for, I was like, there's no way she's going to do this. There's no way, like, I'm going to I didn't even know how I was going to keep her, help her to get on the right track, right? But from early on, I'll never forget at her kindergarten graduation, my dad said to her, 11 more years. And she was like, no, 14. Like I put like college is the thing for her. She understood very early. I'm like, college is it. It's no longer high school. Like, it's like she got to go to college. College was so important to me. But I had given it I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to do this. So now I have to do it all. Like she has to be able to do it. So, yeah.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I remember seeing you at this point. You had your GED, I think, right?
Oh, I skipped
Or
past
were you
that.
working
Yes.
towards that? Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I got my GED. She was not even 6 weeks old, like because I dropped out, right? Like I dropped out of high school, and my dad had gotten his GED. So I come from a school of, drop, and I used his GED books to study like 2 weeks. I took 2 weeks. I would leave my daughter upstairs with my mom, go downstairs and study, and I went and took it and passed. Actually, with flying colors the first time.
That's huge. No, that's a big accomplishment. And so you're raising your daughter, right? You have your
Mm-hmm.
GED, and here she is already talking about no, 14 years,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I'm just trying to imagine. That is something to hear them say. And ultimately, um, talk a little bit more about, I think, the challenge of raising her, but some of the challenges you faced even during that time frame, right? I mean, we're talking, at one point, I think homelessness, dealing with that challenge, and still ultimately pressing through. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Certainly. It's funny, right? Like living life is just one of those things, and it's like I had this child at this young age. In my mind, I was grown, right? And I had to figure it out, and then I didn't want to live by certain rules, and we ended up homeless for different reasons, right? We didn't People just like, you got to do these things this way, you got to do this, we let us raise your child, and certain things I was not okay with ever, right? Like, just, and every time I found myself in these situations with her, and I would be ready to just give up, honestly. And I would look at her and be like, all right, you got to keep trying. You can't give up. Like, something in me just innate was like, you can't give up. You got to keep going. So you talk about, I'm sorry, this is so emotional, and there's so many things going through my
No,
mind. And
take
I
your
want to
time.
get this message across to people, because I know that so many people, they go through this, and it's
Thank you.
hard. It is
Hmm.
hard. It is hard to do. And although we're all these years, beyond that, it doesn't take away that impact that it left. It doesn't take away that feeling when you explain it again, right? And you're
Yes, ma'am.
talking about it. Going, I'll never forget. We did not have anywhere to live, and we were sleeping on a mattress at a friend's house. And my daughter, she was just barely 2, and I remember saying to her, I was just talking out loud, I wasn't even talking to her, and I was like, nobody believes in us, no one is here with us, we don't have anyone, I have no friends. And you know what this little person said to me? She used to call me Kiki. She said, Kiki, I'm here with you, I'll always be here with you, I'm never going to leave you. Can you imagine hearing those words come out of a barely 2-year old's
Two,
mouth?
2 years
Two,
old. Yeah.
two. And it's those moments. It was things like that that would happen, that would shift me, that would pick me up and be like, someone's watching. Someone came, like, right, this little life. And it's those moments, and it people always look for like one big thing. Accomplishment is not just one big, I took this one step and then this thing happened. It's lots of barriers, right? And then it's lots of small touch points from people that this little person, that get you to a big accomplishment, right?
You've said a good deal about how your daughter has, inspired you. Um, I've heard you talk before about her being a blueprint in a way, right? A
Yes.
blueprint for you when it comes to your education, but I think even more than that. Um, Speak to that, please. How? Because it's so great that you invested so much in her, right? As a teenage mom, and for to see her come back around and then inspire you, right? So please talk about that if you can.
It's so, this is great. Thank you. I used to say this in my mind, so I'm gonna try to say it and verbalize this to your listeners, to the audience. I didn't know it at the time, but it was like I watched her, and my sole attention and focus went to her, because I thought my life was when I say done, right? Like everything that I could accomplish, it would now live through her. So the way that I describe this to myself, I used to say, I walked backwards. I was watching her and I was walking backwards, laying a path for her in support of her and her dreams. I want to play soccer. They're not playing soccer in the hood. How do I find a soccer team? And I didn't stop until we found a soccer team, right? Like a little person. Okay, she's playing soccer. But through soccer, now we're in different spaces. But then I'm laying this path. Okay, educate, like, school is a part of it. I'm backing up, backing up, backing up. And then by the time she got to high school and then some of my support looked and felt different, I look up, I look around. It's time for her to go to college. I have, by walking backwards, making this path for her, I'm in a different space mentally, physically, like emotionally. I'm in a different space. I've grown by investing so much into her that it helped me to evolve in ways that, and stretch me in ways that I didn't even know was possible. Right? Like, and so
Yes.
then I look up and we're in the car, and it's a few months before high school graduation for her. And I remember saying, so all these years I sat around at the soccer field watching you practice. I could have been walking, exercising. I wasn't going to do that. I'm sitting in the car eating Chipotle. I could have been doing all of this other stuff. I could have been in school. I could have been studying. I'm going to go back to school. And it was in that moment, I'm going to get my degree. It was in that moment in that car. And I told her that. And I'll never forget, like a couple of days, I was like, why did you lie to that girl? You never tell her lies. Because I had tried before. And I was like, it's not going to. Why did you tell her that lie? And a couple years later, sure enough, my trajectory started because I held on to it, because I don't tell lies and I don't lie to her. But in that moment, I said it because I was feeling it, but I didn't see how it can happen. But I had to hold on to it.
No, and that's really good and relatable too, because I think a lot of folks, whether it's starting school or they're starting something else that has seemed intimidating, you start the doubts start creeping in. I don't know. Maybe I don't have the time, maybe this, maybe that. I don't have the confidence in myself to be able to do this. Could you speak a little bit to that? Like, I know it was a couple of years, you said, after you made that incredible promise, right, to your daughter, but what was it like to kind of wrestle through I'm not sure, to actually put your foot down and do it?
Yeah, mine was more so. Yep, had it passed. You've tried so many times, and you did not succeed. You did not finish because work and life got in the way. So for me, I'm gonna tell you what it was. So I write. I'm a writer. I write my goals down, and I go back and I look at those things quite often. And
That's good.
yes, it's important to do. It's important to do, because, yeah, you write it, make it real. Like, look at it, think about it. And I would just page after page. So a couple of years had passed, and I'm just like, I got to do something because the money wasn't coming in. Now I have this daughter in college that we're still supporting. She needs help, and money is just tight. I know what I'm bringing to the table at work. I know what I'm doing. But I'm not being recognized in that way. What else is there? So I got to a point where I was like, all right, I have to do something. What can I do? And everybody's like, well, you need a degree. You need a degree. You need it. And I remember having this conversation with my manager. This was like the breaking point. And she was like, well, I was like, you get all these people with, degrees. What is it? I have it. The CEO at the time would not allow me to even get a title that said manager when I was literally running the day-to-day operations of HR. I couldn't even get a
That's
managerial
frustrating.
title. You tell me. So so forget the money for a second, not even the title. And my manager at the time said, well, a degree shows people that you can stick to something. You sign up for it and you can stick to it. And I remember saying to her, in only a way that I can, you go get you a person with the best degree that you can find, and you put them up against me, and assume everything else is the same, and watch I finish stronger, better. And she said, yeah, that's probably true, but they still got the degree, so you might not get it. And it burned me up. It was a great conversation, but and I was like, okay, I got to do this.
Talk about a tremendous motivator, right? Professional motivator, right? And so you put your foot down right? And you reinvest, right? So now you're starting the college chapter, right? And we have the honor of hosting you at UMGC, to earn your bachelor's degree. Um, Talk a little bit about what that was like, right? To start your education journey here at UMGC, to pick up where you had left off, please.
My educational journey with UMGC started before I even finished the enrollment application, because
Okay.
I would call the advisors and ask a gazillion questions. I needed to know. And what was so great about those conversations? I'll tell you, it never felt gimmicky, it never felt salesy, and I never felt rushed. They always gave me the time to answer the questions, to allow me to be comforted in the fact that I was making the right decision and not feel rushed or second guess. You never want buyer's remorse at any point, right? And so I never felt remorseful or second guess my decisions, because they helped me to, again, I'm a planner, I'm a writer, and my thing was I can do anything for a year. And so I planned my UMGC journey in 2 year chunks. I was like, okay, if I do this and this and this will get me here. And then once I get here, I feel this sense of accomplishment. And it was all written in my book, and then when I do this and this and this, then it'll get me to the next. So I saw it through to the end. Master's degree wasn't a part of it. It was just getting
Is
this
that right?
bachelor's degree.
How about that?
Yeah, no. But it was so great that once I was halfway through the bachelor's, I was like, oh, I might as well go all the way, baby. I'm going all the way.
Yes.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And so it was that, right? And so even throughout the program, so professors, great, students, amazing. And this is one thing I got to say. I'm sorry, I got to put this pin in here. When people think of UMGC, they think of this online school. And so they think of dispersed, like I don't have anyone. It's very much a community. It's very much this community feel. You feel part of something larger. You feel the support. You're not in it alone. If you come into it with that mindset and you don't engage, you don't meet people, yeah, you'll be alone. But if you come into it like I'm looking for my people, I'm looking for my cohort, I'm looking for my crew, you're going to find that group of people that's going to support you throughout the process. And that's what happened to me and for me, that allowed me to dive deeper into the community, if you will.
That's tremendous. None of us can do this alone, right? And I know at UMGC, and by the way, I was in admissions right in that time. I really
Mm.
was, and so I could have been one of the people you talked to.
You
That was
probably
so
should go
amazing.
back and look it up.
We should figure that out. Okay. But that's good. We look for that family feel. I mean, we all know, especially when challenges come, you don't want to go through those alone, right? And I know you had challenges, unique challenges that happened at the beginning of you pursuing your bachelor's degree. I know here at UMGC, and then also earning your master's too. So we'll get to that soon. But on the bachelor's side, right? In 2018, can you talk to us about, what you had to push through there? I know it was a
Yeah,
lot.
it was. It really was. And it was at the start. And it was, my grandmother was a very influential person in my life. And, when she had a recent emergent, her breast cancer came back. And we knew at stage 4, and we knew that we were losing her. And I was very much a caretaker for her. And because my mom had me as a teen, my grandma, she served as a surrogate mom. She was a mother to me, right? And so um, watching her and aiding her through her transition while I was in school, I remember I wanted to quit. And she said, you got to go to that schoolhouse. Can you, instead of going to the schoolhouse, can you do your work here? And I was like, yeah, we online, grandma. She's like, okay, just be here with me. And she told me, she was like, don't do it. But UMGC also helped me, because guess what? I could sit in the hospital with my laptop beside her and do my work. And all she wanted to know is that I was right there with her. I could take my laptop to her house and watch her caretakers do things for her, but be there with her so that we can share in a little meal together. And because my laptop is all I needed, I didn't have to lug books around. because my books were online. I did not have to do so because it was there. And then after she transitioned, I went into depression. If you had asked me before, I did, I just take a licking and keep on taking. But I had went into a depression that I didn't even realize I was in. And I took this class, an elective class that dealt with death. And I promise you, my professor, and I wish I knew the name right now, she was the best therapist ever. Like the course, the lessons, the conversation between the students, it guided me. It helped me to realize where I was in my life at that point, what I was going through, that it was okay to be mad, that it was okay to do these things, and it allowed me to work through those emotions and keep pushing. And my grandma words popped in my head from the time I was little. She would always tell me, "You're strong as an ox." I thought she was saying it because she saw what was happening in the moment, but she gave me those words to carry on after she was no longer here, and remembering that I was strong as an ox, going through that UMGC course in 2019, going through those things after she had passed in that class with that professor and those teachers. It really pushed me beyond. And it was in that moment that I was like, there's no stopping me at this point. There's no stopping me now.
In another way, you weren't doing this alone, right? I mean, as you said that, I just imagined hearing her voice, as you work your way through your studies, even when you wanted to quit, her letting you say, "Don't quit, don't quit." Oh man. Okay, so you get to the point, right, where you earn your bachelor's degree, right? You get to that finish line. That had to be a tremendous feeling, first of all. Did you attend your graduation, by the way?
What?
Yeah, you did.
Yes,
Yes,
you
you
know
did.
it. All the
Just wanted to
fanfare.
highlight that. All the fanfare,
All the
and
fanfare.
super well deserved, right? I mean, I just want to say that now. I just got to say that because I have also seen you talked about this in the past, struggling with the feeling of not deserving certain accomplishments, right? Or not feeling worthy enough, right? And so I just want to highlight that too. When you celebrate at the end of a finish line, right? It's well deserved, right? And I could you describe that briefly for a feeling like this accomplishment that you didn't think you deserved before, but here you are now, right?
Yes. It's undescribable, right? Like, not it's this little person, my daughter now an adult who had done her thing. She had her, and now I'm sitting here with my family, like rooting me on. And do you know that was the last year that it was UMUC, which is so great, right? Like I got that you and then and it was right before the pandemic, which then changed it. And so, but it was that feeling sitting in that auditorium and watching every name being called, and then the moment I stepped on the stage, it was just like, yes, I deserve this. It went from being, can I do it? Do I deserve it? To being like, in that, I'm telling you, it was the changing of the guards. It was like, yes, I deserve it. I'm so proud of me for doing it. Right? Like I want to scream it to the mountains to tell other people who may be second guessing, like step, do this because you deserve this feeling right here, right now, too.
Come on. Oh my gosh.
I'm trying to pull it back. I'm trying to pull it back.
I can don't hold back. Don't hold back. Now, your daughter, was she there?
Front and center. Front and center.
That's special. Now, okay, take us to graduate school now. You decide you're going to get your master's degree at this point, right? So, briefly, if you could talk about your decision-making process there, because some might have said, I got my bachelor's degree, I'm good. Like you said, even at first, you had a two-part vision. The master's degree wasn't even a part of it initially, right? You could have said, I'm good, and sailed off into the sunset, right? Why the master's?
Why not? At that point, that was my mentality. At that point, it was, first of all, UMGC. Once I got through, the way that the programs are set up, the way that school is set up, the way that you choose your classes. Again, talking to the academic advisors, understanding what it was. It's 2 years. It's like however many credits, 48 credit, whatever. But it's like, I can do this. Okay, I had my book, my trusty book, my ink pen, and I went through and I'm like, this is how I'll get this done. And it was at that I'm not stopping. I was not planning to stop. I wanted to see it through because, and you know what I told my daughter, I said, the bachelor's was for you. This master's, it's for me. So this, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. And it was like, for you, I can do anything, but can I push myself through this for me? And sure enough, at the start of my, we went on vacation to celebrate the bachelor's degree, and I found myself in a hospital sick for weeks. Yeah, at the start of, and I remember like
Just as you're about to start.
just as I was about to start my master's program, here come another barrier. Here come another barrier.
Like, what a coincidence, you know? But go
What
ahead.
a
Come on now.
coincidence. And I remember again saying, you know what? I'm going to push this off a semester because I'm in the hospital. I'm going to push it off a semester because I'm not right. Da da da. I've been in the hospital for weeks at this point. And here come my daughter again. No, 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 you cannot. No, you got to do it. She wasn't the only voice, but she was one of the loudest voices, right? And it was her word. She said, I'll do whatever it takes. If you need me to read to you, if you need me to tell me, whatever you need me to do, I'm going to help you through it, right? I was like, okay, you got to do it. Don't stop. And I remember the first time I was like, all right, I'm not feeling it tonight. And I said, I need some help. Can you come and help me? And whatever it was, she's like, there's nothing wrong with your eyes or your fingers. Here, let me help you. And she pushed the laptop up closer to me on the hospital table and was like, there you go. You got it.
You're kid. Okay.
I'm,
What we got? The world needs to know what her name is. What is her name one more time?
her name is Lanaya.
Lanaya, shout out to you. Shout out to you. You're watching
Okay.
this or listening to this. Shout out to you. I gotta say, gotta make a moment for that. But go ahead, please, Lakia. So you're on the hospital bed and you're working through this.
I'm on the hospital bed with IVs in my arm, and I'm working through my first MBA class. And it was this little girl who one of my coworkers, she would come to see me, and it was at the very start. I'll never forget this. And I was like, I need a book. I don't have any. So I'm in the hospital. I don't have anything. And she was 10 years old, maybe. She and her mom had come to see me, and I was like, I need a book and some supplies. And this baby was so happy to go buy me a book. She's like, she went and she picked this book out on her own and was so happy to bring me back a book and some ink pens so that I can get my schoolwork done. Isn't that just,
I
again,
mean, you're in the fire at this point, and people are jumping in there
yes,
to
won't
help
let
get
me
you.
stop. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was that thing. You cannot, when it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But, if the people around me, but again, how about it for the classes? I'm just able to get my laptop, plug it in, and keep it moving. And honestly, when I look back and think about it, it was the distraction of class kept me positive. It kept me thinking. It kept me together. It kept me going, um, and it allowed me to focus on something other than what could have been a downer in my life at that time.
That makes sense. Like you had a mission. You were on a
Yes.
mission, no matter what was going on. You had a sense of mission, I think, right? That purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. Um, Lakia, you started your master's degree, and as we know, you weren't on this journey alone. I mean, and this is also because you've talked about this before, uh, from the vantage point of classmates, right?
Yes.
Please talk a little bit about that, right? Because you had classmates with you in this too, I think.
Again, the power of the UMGC community when you're internal and then as an alum, it's huge. It's necessary to tap in. And I met someone that a classmate, and we just clicked right away in this master's program. And now, I call her my sis. Her kids are my nieces and nephews, and my daughter is her niece. But in class, we would just after class, she had just had a baby, and we would all night we would talk about our school. Okay, you're doing this, you're doing this. Hope we get on the same project together. Hope we do this, but we helped each other out so much in class, and then it transcended outside of school. It became something bigger, right? Like her with her her clothing, her social media piece, me with my business. How can I help you? She would help me from a project management standpoint. We would talk about things that would help her. And then that community, we created a bond we created an unbreakable bond, she and I together. Again, I often tell people when they approach me about UMGC, I'm like, yes, it is an online institution, but it's so much bigger than that. You connect with real people and then you create these relationships it's not transactional. That's what it is. It's very much relational and not transactional. That's UMGC for you.
Mm, mm, mm. You know, um, it's true. And every student that comes to UMGC or that goes to any school, we know has a very unique story, right? And everyone's got their hopes, everyone's got their dreams, and they're using their education to get to that dream, right? And so, I mean, speaking for the university, what a privilege to be able to work with you and your story beyond the education, right? I mean, but it's to achieve the goals that you had as well. I know this was a personal goal, but this was a career goal for you too, right? It was a career goal for you. So you go on to earn your MBA, right? And all this time, you're still, I think, you're working in you have HR career field, right? Your HR career. So tell us a little bit about how the degree or the degrees have helped and shaped your career, or what it's made possible that maybe wasn't possible without.
Honestly, from the moment that I started my degree program, I was an employee. And I had taken a step back, and so I had, one title, and then throughout my degree program, my titles, my salary, things just kept progressing, and a large part of that, yes. So while I had 20 years of experience coming into it, but the program at UMGC was relevant. It's timely, it's modern, it's not outdated. The professors understand it. So you can learn things at school and then apply them in real life, in real time, which was key, right? And then by the time though I finished my degree, I had started my own business. And yep, I had resigned from my role, something that was never part of the plan. This wasn't part of the plan. But I started this business off of really just this thought. It was like, yep, this is the time, this is the moment. I give credit to UMGC. The capstone in the MBA program was just so amazing and so real life, because the capstone is like you simulate owning a business and running a business and what you do and how you think about it. So, which was bizarre, the way that things happen. But I credit UMGC for really giving me that extra boost of confidence to know that I can do it. So it's just not the school, it's the schooling with everything that I had done to that point. You put it all together. So you can have all of these things, but if you don't know how to mesh and mend them together and can see another vision because you've learned some other things along the way, what good is it? It was like I had all of the ingredients, but UMGC helped me to figure out the recipe to make said thing happen.
Hmm. That's a powerful way to push it. That's a great way to phrase it. Um, you talked about, and briefly, you ended up resigning from your HR position, and I believe you had hit a ceiling at some point professionally at that point, right? So I think getting these degrees helped to kind of get past that ceiling, right? Um, could you talk a little bit about that too? Because I think a lot of folks out there know how frustrating it is to keep banging your head on the same wall professionally, right? Where you have a dream of achieving this particular role or title and you can't get there because something was holding you up. You got there though. So could you talk a little bit about that too?
Absolutely. The ceiling, I'm gonna say the ceiling and the stigma,
Mm,
right? You could fill in the blank for whatever stigma, but it's so real because again, people sometimes they often say this piece of paper. What does it show? What does it do? But so forget what it shows, but what does it make you feel?
mm,
What does it make you feel? It makes you feel unstoppable. It makes you feel like I can find a way. It gives you again the tools to help. But for me in my career, it was, yeah, it was no. We talked about it, right? Like there's no, you can't get a title, you can't get the money, you can't get this, you can't get that. So where do I go? I felt stuck. So this degree, it helped me to get unstuck. How so? Because again, adding more tools to my tool belt, having these professors, having these students and these classmates that talked about what they were doing. And so again, being open to learning in all the spaces, not just when you submit in your classwork, but learning from the other people around you and engaging with people to figure out how what they're doing and how are they making it and what career, what fields are they in. All of those things again help to add to my tool belt to help me to get beyond, to get unstuck, and then to overcome said stigmas.
And here you are now as CEO, right? Of a CEO of Magnificent Differences Consulting,
It's
right?
a mouthful,
Um,
but
and I've been trying to get the acronym down to MDC.
yes.
MDC, I love it. So here you are, and talk a little bit now. You're living the dream about what your company does and the impact it makes.
So we're gonna first start with the name Magnificent Differences Consulting. The rationale behind the name is it's a couple things, but we just gonna focus on if people oftentimes focus on the differences as a reason why something cannot happen, but we highlight the differences as to why everything good can happen. And if we connect on differences, we understand differences, we respect differences, the outcome can absolutely be magnificent, right? Right?
Yes,
And that
yes.
is what happened. That is a big piece of my life, both personally and professionally. When I think about my daughter and the way that she came up, and it's like, it has to be different. Your life has to be different from mine. And so the intentionality behind that.
I want to bring it back around and end with this. Okay, you have the story. This is a powerful story of perseverance. Um, Everyone listening, everyone watching is persevering through something or is intimidated by the possibility of having to persevere through some challenge. What would your advice be to them?
Hmm, we are all persevering through something. My advice is this: first of all, know that you're not alone. You are not alone. Take one step back, one step back, assess the landscape, think about the end in the beginning. Where is it that you're trying to go? What is it that you ultimately want to accomplish? Drown out all the noise, get a pen and a pad, write down that ultimate goal, and write down the steps that you need to take to get there. Put it to the side, take one step at a time, one step at a time. That's it.
One step at a time, folks. Wow. Lakia, thank you. And thank you. And thank you again for being on with me and being on with us. To our listeners and to those who are watching, thank you for listening. And if you want to see more unstoppable stories, if you want to be inspired by more unstoppable stories, please remember to like and subscribe, and it will happen. All right. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for having me.